Good afternoon. Welcome to today's program from the Newark Public Library, NPL at Home, the Tiny Prince Collection. I'm Tom Ankner, the director of the Charles F. Cummings New Jersey Information Center at the library. We ask that everyone leave their video and sound off. If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat box. Before we get started, I just wanted to encourage you all to fill out your census forms. Filling out the census is one small but very important thing everyone can do right now to help our city and our communities. If you haven't done so yet, please go to my2020census.gov and fill out the brief questionnaire. The information you provide affects funding for healthcare, transportation, your local schools, and many other needs. Remember, my2020census.gov. It is safe, secure, and confidential. Today's program is another of our NPL at Home sessions designed to introduce people to exciting and interesting items from the special collections of the Newark Public Library. Today, I will be showing you the Tiny Prince collection, the archive of a journalist who covered Newark nightlife and community events from the 1940s to the 1980s. The archive offers a unique look at the lives of Black Newarkers during those years. The entire collection has been digitized and is available free of charge on the Newark on the Newark Public Library's digital archive at digital.npl.org. Tiny Prince, whose real name was Carl Brinson, was a lifelong Newarker. His mother's brother was Newark drummer Danny Gibson, and his maternal grandfather owned a nightclub on Halsey Street. Tiny attended Arts High School and the New York College of Journalism. He was best known as the publisher, writer, and editor of many Newark nightlife publications. From the 1940s to the 1960s, he wrote for the Herald News, an African-American newspaper published in Newark. He also wrote for the Amsterdam News and was assistant advertising manager for the New York and New Jersey Age, other publications aimed at an African-American audience. In 1949, Tiny founded a Trend Publishing Company, which published Trend Magazine, After Hours Magazine, Gospel News, and Black Mirror News. He was also involved in talent scouting and promoting, broadcasting, and politics. He served as publicity director for Club World Incorporated, a nonprofit network of clubs and single members, and in the late 1950s became the first Black disc jockey on WNJR. He was active in several state, local, and national political campaigns. The collection was donated to the Newark Public Library after Tiny's death in 2015. It contains photos, publications, correspondence, administrative records, and other material related to his myriad interests, as well as his career in Newark City government. My focus today will be on the photos and the publications. First, I will show you how to get to the digital archive. And for that, I will share my screen. Let's see, right here. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that. Okay, so we are now looking at the main screen of the Newark Public Library Digital Repository, or the Digital Archive, as we usually refer to it. Digital.npl.org is the address of this page. Now, to get to the Tiny Prince collection, there are a few different things we could do. We click on Browse Collections here, and we could browse the collections by their name. They show up alphabetical by the name of the collection. We can also do that by going up here to this link here, Browse NPL Collections. We can browse by creator, by subject, by type, et cetera, et cetera. The easiest way to get to a collection is just to enter it in the search box then. So I'm going to just enter Tiny Prince collection. Hit enter. And the first entry that comes up is the Tiny Prince collection. So you click on that link and you get to the main page for the collection, which is this. There's a little bit of background, some of which I used in my introduction, about Carl Brinson, Tiny's real name, talks a little bit about his background. And then we have the number of, should be a number here. Okay, anyway, it doesn't say it right there. The number of different pictures and publications and other items from the collection if you scroll down. Now, to find a specific type of thing, you can go to the left-hand column where you can look up things by subject topic, by type of resource, whether it's a still image or a three-dimensional object. There are some buttons, I believe, in here. Those would be most of the three-dimensional objects, I believe, but also the form. Now, I want to show you some of the magazines first. So I'll click on magazines. Okay. And we will go to, I'll just show you a few of these. Click on one of the After Hours, which was one of the magazines that he published. This is the cover of one of the After Hours issues. If you want to make this bigger, click on the full screen symbol right here. And that will make it bigger. And you can still make it even bigger more by click on the magnifying glass with the plus sign in the middle of it. You can do that. But anyway, this is from looks like the 80s sometime. New Miss America, Suzette Charles. That would have been in like the mid 80s, I believe. But there's no date here. Oh, here it is, 1984. Yes, on the left side here. So in order to look through these publications, they're designed to be looked at like you'd be reading a physical publication, turning the pages and everything. You just have to use the arrows on the bottom. So if you click the arrow once, you go to the inside page, and you have some ads here. Oh, it looks like we actually don't have the full issue in here. So let's pick another one then. That was not a good choice. Sorry about that. Let's go back one. Let's see, one of these. I actually wanted to show you one from like the 40s or 50s. Those are kind of more interesting. Well, this is from the 70s. Looks like this is not bad. Okay, so this is Mayor Gibson is on the cover of this one. This is, let's see if I find the date on this one. Dates are not always obvious here. Oh, actually, you know where we can find the date is by going back to the metadata. Okay, this is from 1977. In the metadata below the main page for the item, it'll give you information about the item. It'll give you some subject headings that it's listed under. Describe it, it's a magazine, and also say a few other things about it. And there's usually a date here. If we know a date, there's a date here. Sometimes if we don't know the date, then there won't be a date here. But this is from August of 1977, this particular issue. I guess they didn't make the date on the issues really obvious. Anyway, you can you can kind of page through these like you would a regular magazine. I think these are fascinating just by looking at the old ads. There's an ad for the new Laurel Garden on Springfield Avenue. This is a nightclub, some other nightclubs here. This is kind of fascinating if you're interested in the history of Newark nightlife by looking through these publications and just looking at the ads. And there are usually some articles here, some columns. Last of the big time spenders. There's some BT Spenders, #1. Jazz is alive and well in Newark, leaping upward. So says Geronimo, Poncho Diggs, and Paul Mitchell. Sometimes you have to kind of know what's going on to understand what's going on in those columns. But and I think Tiny wrote actually many of those columns, but some other people wrote some of the columns in these magazines too. Again, just like scroll through, you can just scroll through the magazine. Okay, just want to show you a couple of these. These are the After Hours. I also wanted to show you some of the Trends, which was one of the other magazines that he was involved in. Okay. So this is in the 60s, I believe. This is another After Hour News, it was called. This was from 1967. This is one that I was looking at the other day. These some local businesses here. Eureka Cocktail Lounge, Town Wigs, was on William Street. And then they also reproduced some national columns. This is a column by Drew Pearson. This of course was the month after the Newark Rebellion. This is a Marshall Plan for America as a must. This is a column about, in the wake of many of the rebellions going on around the country at the time, how the government should react, I guess. This is the more ads. Of course, there's a horoscope. You can just scroll through these until you get to the end. So actually a lot of content in some of these. An ad featuring Red Fox. Okay. Anyway, that's just wanted to show you one of those. Go back. I wanted to find something else for you. Let's go back to the previous screen. The Black Mirror News. Let's look at one of the other publications he produced. Black Mirror News. One of these. Okay, this is from a later period. This is actually from this is from 1999. The Black Mirror News was published in the 90s and the early 2000s. So you're getting a much later period than some of those other publications. This is Donald Tucker on the cover. He was a councilman in Newark. And then more, this publication had more political coverage than some of the others. The others were focused more on entertainment and nightlife. This Black Mirror News had more, it was more social events, but also things having to do with politics too. There's a picture of Jim McGreevey, who had lost the governor's race a couple of years earlier, but later won a few years later and still preparing for his next run. He did better against Christie Whitman in '97 than people expected him to do. So I guess he was looking forward to 2001 at that point. So here's a car ad, some other ads here. Okay, it's just trying to give you a sense of what these look like, what these publications are like. So those are the publications. I also wanted to show you some of the photos. Let's go back to, okay, this is the main Tiny Prints collection. I also wanted to show you some of the photos here. Let's go back to the main. Okay, back to the main screen. Okay, so here we are at the main screen, and I just photographic prints. There are 675 of them. I kind of processed these, and I just wanted to show you some of the kinds of photos that show up. A lot of photos taken at events, a lot of publicity photos, a lot of photos of community events. This is a lot of like locally well-known people that are featured in some of these photos. This is a photo from, well, there's no date on this, but it said a recent 29th annual Along Fifth Avenue fashion event at the Terrace Ballroom by Janet Beadle. Left is Beadle. This is the woman on the left, Janet Beadle. Center is Ruby B. Johnson and Jessie Henderson. And then and Joy Kennedy of Noted Kennedy Sisters, who was one of the awardees. Now, this is a lot of the information that went into the metadata for the photos comes from the back of the photos. They were the notation that was written on the back. They may have been the captions that ran in the publication along with the photo, or they may just have been notes that Tiny or the photographer put on the back of the photos. Sometimes you have to know who these people are. I mean, I don't know who Janet Beadle was. I don't know who Ruby B. Johnson and Jessie Henderson are, but other people who, you know, have been around Newark longer than me probably would know who they are. Here's another photo. Latasha Brown is the name of the photo. Photo of Latasha Brown smiling in a gown at a fashion event. And again, no date on this. Not a lot of the photos don't have dates on them, so you end up having to guess about the dates. Mrs. Elvis Jackson. This photo here. General Chairman of Ebony Fashion Fair at Symphony Hall. So a lot of pictures of local people, a lot of pictures of events. Here's a picture of Clarence Lilly, Vice President of Connections Communications Corp, looks on as Dolce Pashid kisses President J. Barry Washington after presenting him a scroll on behalf of a CCC employee. So again, not a date on that. Some of the photos of dates, most of them don't. Here's a picture of a woman just sitting at the bar enjoying herself. A lot of the photos in this collection are like that. They sort of present a really interesting look at the city, and just in many cases, prominent people like Mayor Gibson here, and maybe some of the other people shaking hands with him. But then in other cases, just everyday people enjoying themselves. It's a very common, feature of some of these photos. I just thought they were interesting to look at to get an idea about what was going on in the city at the time. Here's a picture of Andrew Young and Coretta Scott King at some kind of charity event. This was in Princeton, I think. A group in Princeton, home of New Jersey Director of Higher Education for benefit to Martin Luther King Center in Atlanta. So Andrew Young, who's a former mayor of Atlanta, former Carter administration official, is speaking, and Coretta Scott King is there at this event as well. And a lot of publicity photos. Here is, for those of you, this is Esther Roll, for those of you who are old enough to remember Good Times. She was the mother on Good Times. She was appearing in some play in a local theater, the River Niger, opening last week at TUI. I'm not quite sure what TUI was, but he has a lot of publicity photos of well-known people who are appearing in productions, in or around Newark, musicians, actors, actresses. Here is a wedding anniversary, I believe, Mr. and Mrs. Olin Hayes' 50th wedding anniversary, and their home on Ogden Street in Orange. That's an older photo. It looks like it's probably from the 50s, maybe the early 60s. Geraldine G. Fauci, who was a city official, she was a city administrator, I believe, and this is a photo of her, etc. So I just wanted to give you a sense of the types of materials that are here. And now we'll look to see whether we have any questions. Oh, so somebody here, I see Tracy, you remember the Ebony Fashion Fair. Okay, that's interesting. TUR Theater of Universal Images. Thank you, Carol. And yeah, and Beth, my colleague Beth Zaccone processed this collection, so she also knows quite a bit too. And she also mentions that we have some programs from the Ebony Fashion Fair. If anybody has any other questions, please just enter them in the chat box and we'll try to answer them. This is just a very quick look at the Tiny Prints collection. Again, if you want to see this, just go to digital.npl.org. This entire collection has been digitized and is available free of charge at that site. So you can go there and just go to the Tiny Prints collection and look it over. Is there anybody else who has any comments or questions? Let's see. Oh, I see there was a question. Oh, any similar publication? Yeah, I see somebody, Tracy, was asking about similar publications similar to the ones that Tiny published. Tiny died in 2015. None of these publications are around anymore. Yeah, Positive Community is one that I can think of. Local Talk Weekly is certainly another one. Yeah, I'm not sure there is one about Newark nightlife. But yeah, it's Positive Community is one that definitely comes to mind. It's similar, covers some of the similar things. Okay, and I guess that was it. If nobody has any other questions, I'd like to thank you all for being here today. This tour of the Tiny Prints collection. For information on other programs offered by the Newark Public Library, check our calendar at npl.org/calendar. Have a good day, everyone. Be safe.